Hey folks, welcome to StreamingChurch.tv. This is our live video blog, and we do this usually every Thursday evening. We talk about streaming related questions. It can be dealing with computers, lighting, sound, streaming video, even website stuff. My name is Phil Thompson. I'm the executive director here at StreamingChurch.tv, and we are a company that helps churches as well as other ministries and small businesses stream their services or their product online. And we're so glad you decided to spend a little bit of time with us. Now, we're doing this live here today, but we are going to archive it later. So chances are you might be watching us on YouTube or in our video archive files. So we're glad you're here. And we do this every Thursday. And today we're going to talk a little bit about computer issues, computer problems, because all of us from time to time run into that. And my very special guest today is Dan Patagoni. Dan is with Fireproof Computer Service.
That's right.
Did I get that right?
You got it right.
I hope so. I've known Dan for a little while here. Dan's a good friend of ours here, and he's helped me with my computers and even helped my church. And so what we're going to do today is a lot of times we get questions as a company regarding streaming about, well, what's the best computer to have if you want to stream, or I've got problems with my computer. And so we thought today what we might do is spend a little bit of time answering your questions regarding problems that you might be having with your computer. And it could be regarding streaming video or not. You don't have to talk about streaming video tonight if you don't want to. So we want to get to some of your questions. If you're watching on the StreamingChurch.tv platform here, you can feel free to type in your questions in the chat. If you're watching this on Facebook where you don't have chat, or the iPhone, you can send us a quick email, support@streamingchurch.tv. Again, if you're watching this at a later date, again, you can send us email questions. We'll answer them even if it's 2 years from now. It's kind of weird. It's like Back to the Future. But support@streamingchurch.tv is the actual email address, or you can always text us. My text number is area code 520-302-4850. And I'll repeat that one more time. That's 520-302-4850. So you can text us as well. All right, so Dan, it's good to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, it's great to have you here. I want to go ahead and let you for a moment just talk a little bit about what you do. You have a company called Fireproof Computer Services. What's your website address?
Fireproofpc.com.
Fireproofpc.com. All right. And you help people with computers, but you also do websites too, right?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. So something to keep in mind, folks, if you've got a ministry or a church or small business, not only can Dan help you with your computer issues, but he can also help you with websites. Now, chances are people might be watching this other parts of the country or the world. You can still help them though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you do that if you're not in the same city?
Well, it's really simple. Everybody has an idea of what they want their site to basically look like. Okay. So we take that idea and we build it, and we build upon the idea. And because you can see a website from anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter where I'm at or where they're at. Mm-hmm. We can get it to you and get it up and running.
But you can even help fix some possible computer problems even in different parts of the country. You do that through sharing screen and share my PC. Do you use that one, or what do you use?
We use TeamViewer, which is a remote desktop type of application that allows us to get into your computer and fix problems for you. The nice thing about the TeamViewer is that the client side that we give to the clients only lets us in with a username and a password that they have to give us.
Okay. All right. So cool. So people, you could actually help people no matter where they're at. Okay. Mm-hmm. So questions for Dan tonight. If you have any, we've got a few here in advance. Let me pull them up here. Got actually quite a few here. Let's just start with the first one that was earlier today from Julie. Julie says, I hear a lot about 64-bit operating systems. My PC has a 32-bit. Should I upgrade, and why?
Well, there's a lot that depends with it. As far as 64-bit versus 32, if you're not doing a lot of heavy, intensive application processing, things like that, video processing and whatnot, you're probably really not going to notice it. However, 64-bit, you can use more than 4 gigs of memory. So you're kind of limited on what you can use with a 32-bit system. So again, it really kind of depends on how heavy you're using your computer for it to really make a noticeable difference.
All right, and so, you know, since we're talking a lot about streaming video, which is what StreamingChurch.tv, so you would obviously recommend a 64-bit system
Absolutely.
for anybody who wants to stream video. And even, let's take it to some people that may be just kind of tuning in here, logging on through curiosity's sake. Gamers, if you're running games,
oh yeah, definitely.
Again, 64-bit.
Definitely, because you're going to want to push as much memory, especially running a game. Gamers want as much memory, as much power, as much processor as possible, and you can do that with this 64-bit system.
Okay. So I'm assuming, all right, so and probably when we talk about streaming video, you know, computer specs and system requirements and all that good stuff, honestly, the gaming thing's probably pretty much very similar in a lot of ways, because you're pushing a lot of data, a lot of information, so you want to have a strong, healthy computer. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about is going to apply to people that like gaming. Okay, like my son, for instance. I don't do a lot of gaming. Do you do gaming?
I do a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll get into that later. All right, so so you would recommend that if Julie's not really streaming, if she's just using her computer for some basic stuff like email and basic chores and stuff, 32-bit's okay?
Yeah, 32-bit would be fine.
Yeah.
Because you figure if you're going to go from a 32-bit to a 64-bit, you've got to buy that license key. You know, and you're talking, if you're talking Windows 7, you know, you're looking at what, $100?
Okay.
So is it worth it for you?
Okay. Okay, good. Most of the new computers now are 64-bit though, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the nice thing is they're coming out with 64-bit.
Okay. All right, here's a question from Mary Kay. How do I defrag my Mac? Now, I know you're a big fan of Macs. I'm being sarcastic maybe, I don't know. But, you know, defrag is something that we probably should get into with our PCs, because I don't think enough people defrag. And we should probably talk about defragging. So first of all, let's bring it over to the PC side of defragging. And what's the other thing? You do your defrag. What other maintenance should you do on a computer to keep it healthy?
You want a tune-up. I mean, computers are sort of like cars.
Okay.
You got to get them tuned up once in a while.
Okay, so tell me first of all the defrag, and we'll get to Mary Kay's question about her Mac. But how you on defrag, there's a program on your PCs, if you don't have a Mac, PC, and you can hit defrag. So what does that do, and how often should you do it?
Well, the PCs have a built-in program, and what that basically does is, as you write to the hard drive, it kind of writes in type of a serial, one after another type of order. Well, as you go back and start deleting certain files, you've got holes now. And so when it writes and gets to the end of the drive, it comes back and starts over again. So what happens is it fills those holes first. And after time, you've got data all over the place.
Okay.
And what defragging does is it takes the files, puts them all together. So when it's going to look for the file, it looks right where the file is instead of looking all over the place. So that's why it'll speed it up a little bit, because it's not having to seek and put all the pieces together. They're all right here.
Okay. Donna, we're going to get to your question about 64-bit in just a second. So continuing on with the defragging thing, how often should you defrag?
It really varies how much you use the PC, how much you're writing, how much you're deleting. So again, it matters how much you use it, but recommend usually check it out at least once a month.
Okay, at least once a month, you would say? All right.
And you can use that program, you can do two things. You can defrag and you can analyze. So you can just hit analyze and it'll show you how it's looking.
Okay. So, all right, so you should defrag at least once a month, depending on how active you are. But what else should you do as far as maintenance for your regular PC? Is defrag enough?
Oh, no. Defrag's just the icing on the cake.
Okay.
No. For a tune-up, some of the things we'll do is we go and clean some of the cache out, because that builds up over time. Every time you go to a web page, it caches things, and it's designed to where if you go back to the web page again, it makes it faster. It pulls up the page faster because you're pulling up the cache. But over time, you've got this huge file of cache.
I don't have that problem, by the way. I don't have much cache.
You don't have much cache? So your PC's broke then.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, but when you say clean the cache out, that's something the average person can do, right?
You can do it, yeah.
Okay.
There's ways. I'd have to show you really to get into it in detail, but you can clean out the cache, clean out the temp files and whatnot. We go a little bit more than that, a little bit deeper, and a few other little things.
We being your company, right? And by the way, if you just joined us, Dan Pataconi with Fireproof Computer Services with us. I'm Phil Thompson. We generally talking about streaming, but computers are obviously a big part of streaming, and a lot of times people have issues with their computers, and that's why we're getting into this. So if you have a question for Dan about computer-related thing, we can play Stump the Man here, Dan the Man here, and we can see if we can stump you. So, all right, so defragging is something that the average person can do. What about anything else the average Joe can do? I mean, I know you're going to get in there and do a lot of stuff, and that's good. People probably should do that. But what else should they do to get a more efficient computer that somebody like me can do?
Somebody like you?
Yeah. All right, let's rephrase that. Like the average person can do.
Well, defragging and cleaning out the cache is going to be something that the average person can very easily do. You know, but when if you're talking hardware, upgrading the memory, things like that, the average person, you could do it. It's not really recommended. You run into issues of you could end up statically electrocuting the motherboard, which it doesn't take much to fry that whole board.
Now you're scaring me. Okay. All right, well, let's get to Mary Kay's question about defragging the Mac. Okay, Mac's a different animal.
Correct.
Different operating system, different machine. Can you even defrag a Mac?
You can.
Okay.
We don't normally work on Macs,
Okay.
but we know enough to give you a little bit of, point you in the right direction per se. So you can defrag the Mac. Usually you got to use the third-party software. You know, there's one called Disk Warrior. There's another one called ID Frag. Okay. Those are some of the more recommended ones for the Mac.
So basically, a person with a Mac would have to download some software to be able to
Correct.
defrag. Okay.
Correct.
But why doesn't Mac have that ability, like, you know, the PCs? I mean, do Macs really do they not need to be defragged?
They actually kind of automatically defrag files.
Okay.
More smaller scale files, smaller size files. It's around less than 20 megabytes. They'll just automatically defrag those. And that's going to be the biggest portion of the files that are on your PC anyways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, if you have a question for us, if you're watching on the StreamingChurch.tv platform, feel free to type in a question here. If you're watching on something else like Facebook and you don't have that ability, you can email us support@StreamingChurch.tv, and we'll grab your email and try to answer a question. Or if you're watching it at a later time here, you can do the same. Okay, so questions here. What have we got? I want to go back to Don's question here. We were talking earlier about 64-bit versus 32. So Don said, other than software, what do you need for a 64-bit system? I guess that's his question. Did you see that there?
No, I was scrolling up to look at it.
A little bit on chat. Other than software, Don Young says, with you, I don't think you typed this right, Don. What do you need for a 64-bit system? So basically, you're looking at.
Is he referring to the hardware?
I
you
think so. I think that's what he's looking at.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to have to. You can't just convert your own computer to a 64, can you?
You can. All you got to do is install a 64-bit operating system.
Okay, so you have
everything's been moving for the longest time. Processors, everything's been getting 64-bit ready.
Right.
So everything's there hardware-wise.
Okay.
All you need is the operating system. As long as the hardware is 64-bit capable, just install 64-bit OS and you'll be good to go.
Okay. How would you know if the hardware's capable? How would you know that off the top of your head?
All the newer CPUs are 64-bit capable.
Okay.
You know, so you don't have to worry about that. There's a way to look it up, list your hardware list and everything.
Okay.
It's not really just something you can just click and do. But
all right.
If you have a newer computer, you're good within 4 years or so.
Okay. All right.
You're
Cool.
good.
All right. Let's move on. I've got some questions. Here's a question I get a lot, and this one is from Philemon is his name. And he says, I hear negative things about Internet Explorer. Why is that? Is Firefox or Chrome better? All right, here's your chance, Dan, to
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Internet Explorer.
Chrome is typically lighter and usually faster. Of course, you got Internet Explorer 10 coming out. Things are coming out constantly. Firefox has a lot of add-ons. It's not necessarily faster, but usually Chrome and Firefox are more secure. Internet Explorer is just extremely cumbersome if you're doing any web development at all, because what looks great in Chrome, Firefox, Opera looks weird in Internet Explorer. So you have to create a whole new different styling sheet for Internet Explorer. Okay. And anything below 8, you should just upgrade your browser. If you're using Internet Explorer 6 or 7, upgrade it. Okay. Because you got a huge security holes in there. You're missing out on a lot of the new stylings and the way things look online. Okay. If you're below 9, 9 has the new stylings, 8 still doesn't, but if you're running Windows XP, you're stuck with 8. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay. I know from my experience with StreamingChurch.tv, a lot of times people who are using the Windows Explorer tend to have issues with not being able to get to a site, or something's blocked, or there's an X, a red X somewhere in the left-hand corner they have to hit. And so we've had some issues with, I mean, although, we're hearing all these negative things, although I think still the majority of the people out there use Windows Explorer.
They do, yeah, because you're used to it.
Right.
It's a household product that comes with Windows. It's right there. People are just used to it.
Okay. What about Safari?
Safari's a good one. That's more Mac and iOS, right. But that one's a good browser too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Okay. So you're saying that your advice from Fireproof Computer Services is go with something else. Go with Chrome. Would you prefer Chrome over Firefox?
I prefer Firefox. Okay. I like Chrome, but Chrome's still up and coming. So there's a few sites that you'll run into that Chrome just won't display.
Okay. All right.
But Firefox is heavier, but I've always liked Firefox.
And heavier, you mean takes more memory? Or
it takes a little bit more resources.
Okay.
But nothing extenuating.
Okay. All right.
Or nothing exhaustive.
All right. Cool. All right, folks. If you got questions for Dan the Man here, type them in the chat here, or if you're watching this in some other way, some other platform, you can email us support@streamingchurch.tv. Let me go through some of these questions and see. We got people harassing us here.
Bob's got a good point too. Chrome is sandboxed. That's one thing that makes it more secure.
Okay. And sandbox means what?
What sandbox does is when something's running in a sandbox, it's only allowed to run in a little bit of assigned area for the whole entire system. So it can't, if you get a bug that comes in or an infection, it can't just go out to wherever it wants. It's like a kid, it's got to play in the sandbox, it's got to keep the toys and everything in the sandbox.
Okay.
So it keeps the rest of your yard clean.
All right, okay. And that's a good thing then.
It is.
All right. Okay. All right, moving on here with some questions here. We're so glad you're with us. Thanks for being here. We got about another 12 minutes or so to answer some questions. I'm going to take a quick look at my email here, just make sure we don't have anything. And let me move on here to some more questions. All right, my computer freezes when I watch videos sometimes. Why is that? It's from Chris.
First thing I look at is how hot it's getting. Do you have the proper ventilation? Because that's one of the number one things we see with videos freezing, computers, the whole thing freezing, the whole thing shutting down is thermal issues. So you want to make sure if it's a laptop, you want to kind of get it up off, set it on a chill pad, which will have fans in it that'll blow on it, or you can just get a little cookie cooler sheet and set it right down. But to get it up off the area so that it can breathe. And with a regular desktop, you want to make sure that it's got room to breathe, and you want to open it up and get a can of compressed air and blow that thing out every now and then, because you'd be surprised what kind of cat hair and dust or whatever can get into it, and plug it up real quick.
Okay, all right. So watch the temperature of the computer. One of the things I would say too is, again, your processor, if it's getting bogged down a lot, that will cause your video to buffer or freeze, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So should you? How do you get your CPU to the level you want it to? I mean, if it's overworked, what do you do?
Well, one thing is, how much stuff do you have open? Especially if you're streaming video, do you have several programs or other applications that are open also?
Okay.
That's going to definitely have an effect, especially if you're running Illustrator or Photoshop or heavy
A lot
programs.
of resources going. Okay.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Now, in this area of streaming, when people, the question was, I'm watching my church services and they freeze up. I'm going to address it too, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But if your internet connection isn't very healthy, if your network that you're on is running slow, then that's going to cause issues because you're getting bits. The way streaming works, and help me here, Mr. Computer Guy. You're getting chunks of information coming down a line, the packets of information. And so if your internet is slow at your house or wherever you're at, coffee shop, you're going to get freezing up. You're going to get pictures getting distorted, buffering, that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing, check your speed. Now on the other end, and a lot of churches that are streaming don't realize this, but they also need to make sure that their upload speed is healthy wherever they're streaming from and the bit rate that they're sending up the pipe. So on their encoder, like right now, we're streaming here, and we've got a pretty good connection, and so we're streaming at a pretty high level right now because of we're on the iPhone, the iPad. We've got to make some adjustments to do that. But if your church is not, if their upload speed isn't healthy, then a lot of the stuff that they're sending you isn't getting there, or it's getting bogged down. So again, a speed test is a healthy thing to do. A speed test, like if you go to StreamingChurch.tv, if you're streaming with our company, under the resource menu of StreamingChurch.tv, we have a speed test. You want to use our speed test. Don't use
Quest
or somebody else, because that's not going to give you an accurate reading for those of you streaming. All right, and again, you could do that even if you're trying to receive a signal. Do a speed test. See where you're at on that. See what the quality of service is at. Okay, got some questions here. Bob, check your version of Flash Player and make sure your internet connection is higher. That's good advice, Bob. Obviously. And Don, I don't cough fur balls. I cough other things up, but not fur balls. Tony, do you recommend the software for temperature control? Do you recommend a software to keep the temperature control?
Yeah, that is a good question. Temperature control, if you're talking about controlling it, again, you want it to be able to breathe, but to monitor the temperature, there's a good one, I think it's called Speezy. It's from the same makers who make Sea Cleaner. And it's a free software that'll tell you everything that your computer is able to monitor. So such as your motherboard, hard drive, your video card. If the motherboard has temperature monitor sensors on it, which most of them do, it will display it in either Celsius or Fahrenheit for you.
Okay.
And the video card will always be hotter than everything else normally. That's just kind of a normal what's going to happen.
Okay. All right. So something again. What was the name of that? Do you remember?
I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure it's called Specy.
Okay, so that gives you an idea. But I mean, again, that's not going to cool it down.
Right. That's just going to monitor
It's just going to
it
tell
for
you what it is. And it's
Yeah.
up to you to cool it down. Okay, Heidi's got a question. I understand that a lot of streaming will, or even does, at this time require HTML5, and therefore you need the most current browsers. Do you agree? Are you up on that?
For HTML5, yes, you need the current browsers. You don't have to stream in HTML5, but Flash, everything from Flash is kind of going away for the most part because HTML5 came out to replace it.
Right. Okay.
So yes, you need to HTML5. You need HTML5 browsers, which are the newer ones: Internet Explorer 9, Chrome, Firefox.
Okay. Well, they'll have that on there. And a lot of these phones now. I had a question the other day. It's not here, but a lot of the Androids are having a Jelly Bean. I believe it is called Jelly Bean operating system in the Androids. And for us at Streaming Church TV, that means we're going to make some modifications in our platform so that if you have an Android and it's on the Jelly Bean deal, it's going to have to be able to, it's an HTML5 deal. And so we are going to make some modifications for that. And that kind of goes along with the question I had. I had another question here, and that is sometimes my church's live stream, I can see it on my Android, other times not. Any ideas as to why it's inconsistent? That's from Robert. You feel free to jump in there if you have an answer for that, Dan. My answer is a lot of times your provider, your service carrier, is going to have a lot to do with that. For instance, I just now got an iPhone, which I posted on Facebook and got a lot of people supporting me. But I used to have a phone that was Android, and when I first got it, I could see our services and everything, and then for some reason it just disappeared. I could not see any streaming services on my Android phone. I had an older phone now. So different Androids, honestly, some of them, depending on their carrier, their provider, and then the other issue you've got to consider too is, what are you getting it from? Are you on 3G? Are you on a wireless network with your Android? So I don't have a real good answer for you because, I've looked at something and my partner Steve, he pulls out his HTC and he can get it on his Android. I couldn't get it on mine. Again, it has something to do with the different group of Androids that's out there, I guess. I mean, the operating systems are a little different on some of them.
Maybe a software update kind of broke something.
Well, and that can be the case too. So we stream. I mean, our company streams to Android as well as iPhone, and you have to make settings on your encoder. If those of you who are streaming from the church, you have an encoder that makes that happen. You've got to make some setting changes for people to see it on the iPhone. But I was just watching a service the other day, and my iPhone looked great. But again, that's iPhone, that's iOS, that's not Android, different system there. So
yeah, because Flash is not supported on iOS.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but again, you can make it work. If you're a church or a ministry or a business streaming, you can make it work by making the settings, which we've covered before. If you have questions about that, feel free to email me, support@streamingchurch.tv. We're running out of time here. Just a couple minutes more here, Dan. We're with Dan Pataconi from Fireproof Computer Services here. Am I getting all these questions here, Dan? Are you seeing some of these? Anything that
I think you're doing pretty good. Back for Tony, it's Speccy, SPECCY, and it's made by Piriform. And again, they're the same company who makes C Cleaner. They actually make a defraggler, which is a defragging product. And all these programs that they make are free. They have free versions. They have pro versions. Free versions work great.
Okay. So if you want to know your computer's temperature, instead of having to put a thermometer in its USB port, you thought I was going to say something else.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Neither was I. You can just download that software. Okay. Alrighty, guys, we're about out of time here. Let me plug Dan here one more time. Dan Pataconi is with Fireproof Computer Services. Your website, Dan, is?
FireproofPC.com.
FireproofPC.com. No matter where you're at, anywhere in the world, he can help you. And not only does he help you with computer issues and problems, and he's helped us a lot here at a live church where I'm at right now, and also for Streaming Church TV, but he also does some website work too. So if you your ministry, business, or church needs a website or needs some work on a website, he's the man to call. And what's a good email address?
You can email me at info@fireproofpc.com.
info@fireproofpc.com. All right, awesome. Okay, we are just about out of time here. Got some links here. I'm going to wrap things up. Dan, thanks for coming by and spending a little bit of time here. Sure, appreciate it.
It's been good times.
You've been a good friend to us here and helped us. And folks, I really appreciate you spending some time with us. We didn't get maybe to all the questions here, so we'll try to answer some of those via email tomorrow. But again, if we can help you in any way with streaming or websites, questions you might have, just support@streamingchurch.tv is the email you can send it to, or you can always go to streamingchurch.tv, our website, and you can contact us there, or you can look at the various resources we have. This will be up on archive probably by tomorrow. If you go to streamingchurch.tv with archives, we'll also be on YouTube. So just Google, you get to YouTube, just look for, I don't know what we'll call this, Fix Your Computer or something like that, or
/ Streaming Church.
Happy ways to live your life with computer problems. Okay, all right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much, and we sure appreciate it. Folks, you have a great evening, and happy streaming. We'll catch you next time. I'm Phil Thompson on behalf of Steve Lacey and Dan Pataconi. Have a great evening.